Duck Dynasty fans are rallying around the show's controversial patriarch this week like a mama duck protecting her flock. In the latest twist, the restaurant chain Cracker Barrel, which initially pulled sales of Duck family's products after Phil Robertson openly bashed gays, is now putting those items back on the shelves. It seems many of Cracker Barrel's loyal customers are even more loyal Duck Dynasty fans. In a statement, the restaurant chain admitted, "You flat out told us we were wrong. We listened, and we apologize for offending you." Meanwhile, Robertson remains on a forced break from the show, but he's getting an olive branch now from an unlikely source. The nation's largest Republican LGBT group, the Log Cabin Republicans. Joining me now in the studio, that group's executive director, Gregory, Angelo. Let's talk about this olive branch, so to speak. Sure. Your group, you want to sit down for what you're dubbing a Moonshine Summit to talk it out with Phil Robertson, saying that, hey, in the spirit of the season, let's have a drink, let's have a glass, and realize that we are more alike than we are different. Is that a fair characterization of what you guys want to do?
Yeah, exactly. You know, in fact, I think there's no one better to make this case than Log Cabin Republicans. Rather than a bunch of liberals coming in from Los Angeles to wag their fingers and admonish the Robertson family, I think the best way to make the case for gay equality is to take gay conservatives from the other L.A., Louisiana, who are members of Log Cabin Republicans, in order to show that, hey, we're Christians too. We are God-fearing people as well. We're also strong conservatives, and we have more in common than we do that separates us from one another.
But is this a conservative liberal conversation? I mean, if you read what he said, and we've spent a fair amount of time talking about what he said about homosexuality, but if you read the article and read some of the other things that he said about black people during the civil rights movement, I mean, it would seem as if your organization, in addition to wanting to sit down with him, would also say, you know what, buddy, you're wrong.
Hey, well, you know, it's important to have that conversation to begin with. I mean, the interesting thing is that the groups on the left, the knee-jerk reaction was so quick to just completely obliterate, blast, and admonish Phil Robertson. The fact is that if you are going to get movement in those communities, in the Christian evangelical communities, in the southern communities, you have to start from a place of conversation, and that's all we're saying. We're not coming from a place of condemnation. Yeah. We're coming from a place of conversation.
Do you want to embrace him?
Well, you know, the first step towards that embrace is being able to sit down with someone and talk about what you have in common. As you can imagine, Log Cabin Republicans, there are things that separate us from other members of the Republican Party, but there's also a great deal that we have in common. So we're used to having these conversations, and that's where we need to begin.
What do you have in common with Phil Robertson?
Hey, well, you know, the fact that we are conservative, the fact that many members are supporters of Second Amendment protections, the fact that many of our members are Christians. Hey, I consider myself a conservative. I'm also a Christian, so in that regard, I consider myself a Christian conservative. I think it's important to be able to make that case from that position.
The Daily Mail followed Robertson to church yesterday, where he reportedly led a prayer and said in part, "I will not give or back off from my path." It sounds like a man who's not willing to change. So isn't your group just offering him a perfect out? You know, he can sit down with you, he can have a glass of moonshine, appear willing to listen, but walk away with his reputation restored, with his reputation intact.
You know, what this whole Duck Dynasty controversy showed me personally is that you need to engage the evangelical community on these issues, where there are individuals and organizations on the left that are going to completely write off Phil Robertson and the entire evangelical left. What they're not taking into account is that if you want equal rights for gays and lesbians to be a reality in the United States, you need to engage with those individuals. So whether or not we're going to completely change one person's mind, the fact is that we have to move the needle in the right direction. And I can think of no better family to engage with than the Robertson family.
Is this how you move the needle? Is this the guy that you want to help you move the needle?
This is certainly someone who I think is very important to engage with. The fact that Duck Dynasty is the most popular show in cable television history, and the fact that, you know, it's amazing, Craig, just in the course of the last couple of days since we started making statements on this, and Log Cabin Republicans doesn't usually engage in Hollywood matters and in reality TV, but we had such an outcry from our membership saying, you guys got to chime in on this. And the fact is, there have been more Christian evangelicals that have reached out to us and to me personally in the wake of our statements saying, we support you guys, we're encouraged by your statements. So the fact this would not have happened had we not made these statements about the Robertson family and engaged in the Duck Dynasty.
You mentioned the Christian. You mentioned the Christian evangelical community. I want to play you a soundbite from Mike Huckabee yesterday. Of course, potential 2016 presidential candidate Mike Huckabee. This is what he said. Take this.
There's a new level of bullying on the part of these militant activist groups who, if anyone says something that holds to the same position that Barack Obama held in 2008 when he, at the Saddleback Church with John McCain, made it very clear that he opposed same-sex marriage, and he said he did so because he was a Christian and because of his biblical views. Well, if that position was okay in 2008, how come it isn't okay in 2013 or
Governor?
2014?
Is that what this argument's about, though?
Well, I think what Mr. Huckabee was pointing out is the fact that this country, at least on the left, has moved very quickly in terms of support for equal rights for gay and lesbian Americans.
Not just on the left, though. I mean, in the middle as well.
Well, certainly in the middle as well. But what he was certainly pointing out was the fact that just about a year ago, you had Barack Obama was not yet a supporter of marriage equality. Just a couple of months ago, Hillary Clinton announced her support of marriage equality. So on the one hand, have Democrats celebrate someone as late to the marriage equality game as Hillary Clinton, but then completely admonish and call someone a bigot like Phil Robertson, who's not quite there yet, shows that there's a double standard at play, and that's all we're pointing out.
All right. When this Moonshine Summit happens, Gregory, Angelo, let us know. We want to make sure we're there.
Hey, I'm hoping it does. The invitation's there at A&E Network. I actually have a message out to Mike Feeney, their Executive Vice President of Communications, so we'll see what happens.
Keep us posted. Executive Director of the Log Cabin Republicans, thank you so much.